Somebody lift those hands.
It's a new rise.
I need you to speak it over your own life tonight.
It's a new rise.
It's a new rise.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Propel Deep Dive. I'm Megan DiMartino, and I am thrilled that you're here with us today. I just want to go over what is the Propel Deep Dive before we introduce my guest for today, Nicole Weber. The Propel Deep Dive is a part of the Propel program. And in the Propel program, there is a program to help you start, scale, and sustain the business and life of your dreams. There's the Propel community that is no charge, and every day you receive a little message of inspiration from me and encouragement. And of course, reminders of the deep dive that is every Wednesday evening, and then invitations to events that we do throughout the year to help you identify, to start, scale, and sustain the business and life of your dreams with our 5 C's: clarity, courage, confidence, commitment, and compassion. And so my guest today, Nicole Weber, is going to share her journey of how she got to what she's doing today with her amazing marketing business and what she has spent these years of spanning this and how it built to this. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you today my guest, Nicole Weber. Hello, my dear.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, thank you for joining me. Really, very much so. You know, you and I have gotten to know each other a bit. And with that said, I'm a creative and I'm always aligned with other creatives. And it's always interesting to me, and I know certainly to our guests who are listening, how creatives begin, because we are so full of ideas. So Nicole, why don't you just share a minute about young Nicole? Where did you grow up? What did you do? And what led you to what you're doing today?
Sure. So I grew up in Oregon. I actually lived on a 15-acre farm out in the sticks, and, but it was great. My parents came from Portland, and they moved out because they wanted to get away from the big city. It was in the 70s, and so they wanted to live off the land and have a great place for my sister and I to grow up. So we, I didn't have a TV until I think I was 11 or something.
Wow.
So the first 10, 11 years of my life, no TV. So it was just like running around, being outside. We had animals, we had, forts, we were making mud pies. I mean,
Right.
just being kids. And then of course my parents were, they raised everything. I grew everything. We would sit down to the table, which is amazing for me to think about how much work my parents did, but everything on the table would be from the farm.
Wow.
I remember getting we got the wheat berries from the neighbor, and they would grind it into flour. They would make our own bread. So it was amazing. I had a really lovely childhood. But that's where the creativity started. I was not sitting in front of a TV. I was not, I was being creative, doing fun stuff as a kid. And I was always really shy, though, as a kid too. And so it's important to bring that up, because that changed over the years. But when I started, I was super shy. And I remember my parents holding me back a year in school. My birthday is kind of right on the edge. And they said, you know what, she's not even talking, and so let's hold her back. So, but I think that was a good move on their part, because then when I started school, I was a little bit older. I had more confidence. I had started talking a little bit,
Right.
but I loved art. Always. That was one of the things that I loved to draw and paint and sew and cook and anything creative. But I, even as an early child, when I started school, I was always the artist in the class. So I knew that I wanted to do something in the art world, in the creative space, but I didn't know what that was. So as I started moving up in school, and especially like when I got into high school, I was always taking all the art classes and all of that. And I heard that term, commercial artist. And I didn't really know what that was, but my uncle was a commercial artist. And so I started to talk to him because I saw that, he had a nice house. He always had nice clothes. He looked good. He was doing something, and he was making money, and he was always having a good time. Because I didn't see myself as somebody who would be like painting and maybe, you know what I mean? We had
a fine artist type
fine artist. Yeah. I really was interested in the commercial, art space. And so anyway, he became a bit of a mentor for me. As I was in high school, he was looking at my work. And then of course he helped me to pick a college to go to. And I ended up at San Jose State. So I moved down to California to go to school at San Jose State. They had a fabulous graphic design program, and it was tough. So I mentioned this when people think about going to design school. I know for myself, we had to go through like all of these courses. I did probably about four years of college, and then I had my portfolio review. And so after the 4.5 years, I did a portfolio review of my work, and there were about 275 kids who put in their portfolios, and there were 15 of us that were chosen.
Wow.
And that was to go into then the upper division classes to get, I ended up getting my Bachelor of Science in Design with a minor in advertising.
Wow. You said earlier, about your childhood, which is so, I speak about this all the time, Nicole, that there's inspiration in everything we do. And, when people say, well, I just am not creative. Well, I challenge you on that mindset, because it's about opening your mind to what you're seeing, and what you're seeing is an inspiration. And if you live in that space like you did, everything became that inspiration. And then what a wonderful thing, though, to have a mentor, because back in the day when I was creating my businesses, there was no Instagram, there was no Google, there was no YouTube, there was not an internet. So you had to really rely on mentors like your uncle and people that were experts in their field. So it's so important, guys. I'm speaking also to our guests, that you have resources. You have people in your life like Nicole, and her information has been coming across the stream, but that you can get out of your own way and really seek out. But first, it starts with you and that mindset of seeing and looking for inspiration in everything. Yeah.
Yep.
And so what's interesting of also what you were saying to me is that you had the skill set, yes, but obviously these other people did as well, but to get into the program at first, but you worked hard.
Yes.
You worked hard. You said it was not easy. So you spend a minute about that, because I think today, now think is not the right word. I know today that people see so much on social media and perceive that things are just immediate gratification.
Yeah. No, I was in school for 6.5 years. So it was a long time, and I was going full time. So it wasn't like I took a break or anything like that. I was going full time, and I was also working at least one job. A couple times, there was a time I was working 2 jobs to pay for my school. But yeah, with art in general and design, it's like I had 4-hour photography labs, and these classes aren't like read a book and write a paper. It's like go in and like create a poster or create whatever it is that we're doing, photography or whatever, and you just keep at it until it's done. And so I pulled all-nighters all the time. That was, and when I started, it was pre-computer too. So we were like doing hand lettering and sending things out to get typeset, and creating. I worked for a magazine for a while, and we had like little pieces of sticky tape we would put down for the lines, and we would do wax to put down little pictures of stuff. I mean, it was so different. And then
I've been in business a long time and worked with people like you, and would go to their design studios and see exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. And then luckily the computer came in while I was like my last probably year and a half. And so that changed everything, of course. But it was like it's a tool, right? But so the creative part and the piece that I loved about all of the learning that I did in school is it was the conceptual part. And so you really, you're creating a poster, for example, and it's like, okay, who's our target audience? What's going to appeal to them? What is the concept of this piece? And we spent so much time really thinking and creating before we even got to like sketching it out or even like getting on the computer. And so I think that's something that it's really important, because your design will stand out way more if you have a concept and somebody kind of like look at that and go, I got that. That's cool. Versus somebody who just like, oh, here's a pretty picture. Here's a nice font. And I like the color blue,
Exactly. Oh no, I get it. Very nice. Yes. And so that's a great point, because I've worked with designers and before I started my own business in 92, I worked for companies. And so I was in national sales and marketing. So I was interfacing with designers. And what was very challenging is that if in fact they didn't take the time to really listen to me and to really ferret out that real nugget of information that I'm trying to convey, like you just said, because that is so key, because the consumer will miss it if you're not conveying it properly.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not just drawing a pretty picture.
Exactly. And the other thing that I spent a lot of time in school on was typography. I mean, that is the skill set that I see kind of missing today, because with the computer, it's like people just go in there and they just type, but they don't think about the spacing between that T and that O. Because if you just type it, it's too big, right? And so there's like these little tweaks, and it's, curring is what it's called. So I just go in there and like move that over a little bit, move that over a little bit, but it makes a big difference, because having a really nice typography makes it easier on your eye and easier to read. And then people can, it's all about communication, right? So you want people to be able to read what the message is. And so anyway, that was another thing that a lot of the schooling was all about the typography and, the conceptual and all of that.
But this is good. But this is good, Nicole, because again, with the concept of the deep dive, there again, people who have never done work manually, so to speak, and they rely on sites, Canva and what have you, they're not necessarily trained on any level of what you said. And so they may see a type style someplace, may want to replicate it, but it may not be laid out properly, like you said, the topography and the color, sequences, the colorways, and everything together. So it really, I mean, that to me is all important. Important. I'll just share this with you, and then we'll go on to the leaving school and going on. But because I've been in the spa industry for many years, And I have worked with people, like I said, who don't listen. And I would say XYZ, and I'd come back and it would almost be pornographic of what they portrayed. Meaning, a woman with a scanty bikini. Well, we don't even do anything like that. I mean, but that was their perception, and they did not listen to me at all. So guys, this is design and business marketing 101 right here. It truly is. You finished after 6.5 long, very arduous years, working many jobs to support yourself, which is also a testimony in itself. And then what transpired?
Yeah, and then I moved back up to Oregon, and that actually I had met my husband Vince in school. It's kind of a funny story. He was in the design program too, and then he ended up moving into fine art. But we did have a class together. But how we really met was we both ended up working at the Kinko's, and we were working the night shift. We did get in there, go to school all day, and then go in at like 11, 12 o'clock at night and work until like 6, 8 o'clock at night. Nobody came in, so we're in the back just chatting and blah, blah, blah. But anyway.
Wow. Well, that's a great story, because I have a lot of memories of Kinko's, traveling the country and finding a Kinko's that was open 24 hours. So I can print things out. Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, so we moved up to Oregon. We got married. We bought a house. We both got jobs. And of course, my first job was doing art and creating. I worked for a company that did interpretive museums and big trade show graphics and things like that. And so that was really fun.
That's great.
So I just was very fortunate to get into and I had a really good portfolio too. So that helped. To help me get my first job. But I worked in that space for a while. And then I kind of was like, you know what? I didn't want to be stuck in just being a trade show and an exhibit designer. And that was when websites were first coming out. I really wanted to do print. And so I got into the marketing department in a high tech company. And I did high tech, for probably about 5 or 6 years. I kind of moved from one company to the next. And this was also during the .com. Right. And so it was great. I mean, I was going from one company to the next, each time making a little bit more money, getting stock options. They were just like handing out money like that.
Right. The early 2000s.
Yes. And then the .com bust, right? And so this is kind of an interesting story. I was at a company, a startup, and the title on my business card was web graphic designer, which was weird title because I did print design too, but I also happened to do some, design for the website. But anyway, they thought that I was a web developer. So one day they let 70 people go, and there were 5 of us that they kept. And I was one of them because they thought I did websites. Right. I'm not going to say anything. But they came to me and they said, we need a new website in 3 days. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, go out and buy the big HTML book. It was like that big. And I'm sitting there I did not sleep for 3 days. I was up and I was reading and I was figuring it out. And I did it. I figured out how to build a website in 3 days. And they loved it. And so I continued on for 2 years working for that company as their web developer, which gave me a lot of great skills and all of that. But then after the 2 years, then they're like, okay, they had moved to Boston and they were kind of like, we want somebody in-house. I was still in Oregon. So anyway, I ended up getting let go from that company on a Friday. And then on Monday, they called me and they said, could you do some freelance work for me? that was the start of my business
I see. Yes.
right there.
Yes.
I'm like, absolutely. And here's my new rate, which went up again. But it's like they needed me. And so that was the start. And they were my first client. And so I started that business, my Spot Digital Marketing in 2001 in my basement.
So let's talk for a second, because this brought up a thought that I had also. So you worked, for companies, as you said, and continued, and what you were doing was learning and growing.
Mm-hmm.
And then this last company, that experience, oh my God, I could just feel it. I mean, I haven't a clue, but I mean, I've worked with enough design and also people like yourself to know that it's not easy. And there's so many tentacles to it. But when you were laid off, and you said something very key, and then Monday they called you and said, could you do some freelance? What I also see, Nicole, is that people value themselves from a charging position and or do not know how to charge a person. Now, I'm not going to ask you how you do that, your formula, but I'd like you to share with our guests how important it was to learn and grow and see what they were charging people, to understand what your value was, and then come out of the chute with your own business.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge, because I think one thing for me, since I was always a really quiet kid, I've always been very observant. I watch, and I was watching a lot, and I learned a lot from this startup. One, I was like, there were a lot of things that went wrong with that startup. And so I'm thinking, and when I first came in there, I was kind of still one of those types of people that put my bosses and stuff kind of like on a pedestal, thinking that, oh, they know it all and stuff like that. But I watched them like run that business almost into the ground. And so I was like, you know what? I think I could do that better. I think I could run my own business. But I also was like, to your point, I was looking at the value, that I was bringing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so I knew the value I was bringing, and I was not going to say, oh, okay, I'll just give you, I'll just charge you this amount. I'm like, no, I came in like at a high rate. And I said, this is what my hourly rate is going to be now. And they needed me. And so they said, okay. But it was really good. That was a really great experience to boost my self-confidence. And then the other thing that was interesting that happened is, since they had handpicked a lot of people from across the country to work in this company, those people had gotten let go as well. And they all went and found new jobs, and they knew one graphic designer, web designer, and that was me. So they all then started calling on me to come and help them in their new companies too. And so having those connections and those friendships really helped to propel my business. And so that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, because that collaboration and networking is invaluable. It really is. And so over the years of working with different companies and people, building your Rolodex, as they say, with relationships was invaluable to start building your business. Yeah, that's exciting. So that was early 2000s, and you have been building ever since.
Ever since, I know. It'll be 25 years actually in May.
It's amazing. It's
It
amazing.
is. I know.
And how, during these 25 years, I mean, even Kinko's doesn't exist anymore. Now it's FedEx, and I don't think most of them are open past 7 o'clock. So, I mean, there's so many small shifts and changes in what was going on 25 years ago. What would you say is your greatest, I don't want to say accomplishment because we're always growing and evolving and doing, but
Mhm.
what would you say is your field of favor in what you're doing, and how can you help our guests to identify their field of favor? Because you said from the beginning, you weren't a fine artist. I mean, that wasn't what you were drawn to. There were so many different facets. So what would you say your field of favor is today,
Mhm.
and how can you help others to identify that?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, because when I got out of school, I was a graphic designer, right?
Right.
So, and then I learned web development, so I became a web developer. When I started my business, then I was still doing the design, but I hired a web developer to help me with that. And we did a lot. We did a lot of print, and then we did a lot of websites. But what I was finding is these like one-off projects. It's like, oh, here's your website, good luck. That wasn't helpful for people. And
Right.
so there was a pivot that I made, and that was to start doing marketing. I wanted to do ongoing marketing to actually help these companies. And so I started bringing in more people to help me, and I started learning more skills too. And so, for the past, I don't know, probably 15 or yeah, at least 15 years. We do, I mean, full service now. And so it is, the branding, all of the content. It's of course building the amazing website, but then after that's done, it's all about driving traffic, because that's what
Yes.
people want. They want
Yes.
traffic, they want
Yes.
leads, they want
Yes.
customers, they want money.
Sales. Yes.
Exactly. That's what they want. And so I kind of felt like just doing doing their website was kind of a disservice. It's like, here you go, good luck. And so now we're going to say, okay, here's the website. And now we're going to be driving traffic through search engine optimization, paid ads, social media, email marketing, PR, and it's like with marketing, it's all of those different pieces and points. And because people have to see your message at least 12 times before it even like registers in their brain. And they're like, oh yeah, I think I remember that. So, and it's ongoing work. And so I think it's important for people to kind of always, be researching, be looking to see like what changes are happening and how can it's all about helping whoever it is, right? Helping your customer, whomever that is, whatever that looks like, but being like 2 or 3 steps ahead, like, how can I best support them? What's happening? What's going on? And what changes do I need to make in my business? What services do I need to add? What new skills? I mean, with digital marketing, stuff is changing daily. Yes, there's always a new program. There's a new social. There's a new something out there. I mean, right now it's AI. That's the big thing right now that is going to like change everything all over again. But it's super exciting too. So that's what I would say is just kind of, don't stick your head in the sand and think that, you can help people like that, because you can't. You have to be out there, seeing what's going on, talking to people, talking to your customers, finding out where they're at, what their needs are, so you can, better assist.
Well, I can endorse all of that. Yes, and yes. Meaning having built many businesses and really pretty much done what you do by myself, that is not wise. And I had skilled people to do the websites and to do this and to do that, but to constantly push the snowball up the hill, it was a major. And I would say to our guests watching that just because you have a skill set doesn't mean that you can do everything that Nicole just shared. Meaning you may be a proficient speaker, or maybe you have written a book, or maybe you have a consulting business, but that doesn't mean that you can do all of those dynamics that will help propel those businesses. So it is key to really align yourself with someone like Nicole Weber and her business spot, digital design. It's key. It's key. So now you, because we, us creatives, are always looking out. As I said earlier, the inspiration is always there. So, are there other projects that you have been personally working on, or that you would like to share that it augments what you're doing currently, with your business, which lives on?
Yeah. Well, as a creative, and my husband as a creative as well, we 3 years ago bought a piece of property, a 10-acre piece of property in Southern California. We're just outside of Temecula, in wine country and horse country out here. And so we have the property set up now for nightly rentals and retreats. And it is so much fun. It is a beautiful piece of property. I love sharing it. And we have 4 RVs that we rent out and 2 cabins. And then there's a 4-bedroom house that we live in. But when we are going to have a retreat, we take our RV and head out and let somebody they can rent the entire property for like a retreat or something. But it's so much fun because, again, we get to use our creative juices and designed. The property, it was okay, but we put a lot of work into it. We've made it super cute, and we both really like hosting, and so it's just really fun to have people on the property, and they get to bring their dogs, and it's a good time.
Yeah, I think that's the other piece to life, is that to align yourself, that's why I say business and life, because as our friend Sharon Lecter says, if you don't have a life and you've created a business, you just have created another job. Right. So if you're not aligning with what you're doing and having fun, like you said, what is the point? And so it's taking all of these years of experience in marketing and building, but doing what you love to do, which is people and involving with that, party, to retreats and so forth. That's wonderful. That's beautiful, actually. Yeah. Yes, I would love to come someday.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's really fun. And it's a way too. My husband, he builds everything. So he's got one of those types of brains where it's like, there's no problem he can't solve. And so it's really nice to have him, because he's building those cabins, taking care of all the property, doing everything. And then, of course, I use my marketing skills for everything, and every little side hustle, little whatever it is, I'm super thankful that I have those marketing skills, and marketing and sales, really, because I use them every day.
Yeah, because I was, right before you said what you just said, I was thinking, and she's using this because you can say, oh, I'm going to do retreats, but if you don't bring anyone there, it is not going to be a functional retreat. Exactly. So so you're utilizing all of your skill sets. And so, as I say to everyone, it's never too early or too late to create the life of your dreams. It really isn't. You just have to start. And so was the first step to that? I'm just talking about the property now. Did you feel that when you were seeking out that property, did you feel that you were going to do a business there, or was it just property that you wanted to live?
We knew. It took us a year to find this property, because we knew exactly what we wanted to do. And that's one thing I would say with my husband and I, we talk a lot and we set goals together. And so we knew what we wanted, kind of where we wanted it. Cause with nightly rentals and stuff like that, there's a lot of restrictions, that some cities have. So we needed to be, out and unincorporated, and, so there aren't as many rules and regulations, and we needed a kind of the perfect type of property to do what we want to do. So.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
You know, you started that conversation back in Kinko's at the 24-hour deal. So
yeah,
it's yes, and so you've been joining forces ever since. So that's
yeah,
also very, very special. Very special. Love when I see couples who have been able to pull their lives together and align with what you're doing. That is really
yeah,
exciting.
yeah. We're going to be celebrating our 30-year wedding anniversary
Wow.
coming
Well,
up here.
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a milestone in itself.
Yes, it is.
Well, and I don't mean just being married for 30 years, but aligned and doing it in the successful fashion that you have done it. That's where the congratulations lies,
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful. Well, as we close, is there anything that you would like to share? And then I have one question I would like to ask you.
Yeah. Well, I would just say, for me, being like a shy little girl, I just kept going, and that's what I wanted just to share is just like, just keep going.
Yes.
you know,
Don't stop.
we all have stuff,
Mhm,
and it's just
mhm,
like, um, but I just, I've always had set, some good goals for myself and had
mhm.
dreams. And I just kept pushing through. And
Yes.
like we talked about earlier, I've always
Mhm,
looked at other people. I have
mhm,
always had mentors in my life,
mhm, mhm.
mentors, coaches. If I want something, I'm going to go and find somebody who's already done it.
Right,
Right?
right,
I'm going to connect with them, and I'm going to pay them money to teach
right.
me how they did it. And
Yes.
I think sometimes people are like, "Oh, I don't want to spend, thousands of dollars doing that." Well, then you're going to spend 10 years,
That's
trying
it.
to
Yes,
figure it out.
yes, yes.
So I'm a huge component of finding those right people to help you along the way.
Mhm, mhm,
and
mhm.
and right now with the internet, there's so many coaches and
Well,
programs,
that's it. Mhm.
free stuff and whatever. It's just, there's so much
It's there.
learning out there
It's there. It's
that we can
available.
get.
Yes, it's available. The question I wanted to ask you is, and I don't want to assume anything, but what would you say as a creative? Because you can then say, and I'm not going to use the words, but what is you said don't stop, meaning keep going. But
Mhm.
what is your driving passion undergirding everything that you're doing?
To help others.
Mm,
I
mm,
love and growth. I love growth. I love change, and
mhm,
I love helping others to grow.
mhm,
And that's
mhm.
kind of the bottom line. And so
Yes.
if they have a business, I want to
Mhm.
help them grow that business.
That's
If
great.
they have some ideas, I'm an entrepreneur, so I could talk all day long about business. It is absolutely like my favorite thing to do is
Right.
to brainstorm, to figure out, okay, so you have this idea, fabulous. How are we going to make this
Mhm.
to help other
Right.
people so you can
Right.
monetize it and create an amazing business from this
Mhm.
idea.
Mhm.
So that's the core is
The core.
growth
Right.
and helping others grow. Yeah.
Right. Right. And that I would like to leave with this for our guests is that I would say that most humans, that is the underlining, girding, is to help others.
Mhm.
And but even if that isn't, it's so important to really take that time and understand what that passion is, what is driving you.
Yeah.
Because like you've said throughout this, conversation, it isn't easy. None of it was, starting even, back in as a child and then college and working and building and doing. But when when you identify, then you won't stop.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Nicole. I so enjoyed this, and thank you for sharing your heart and your experiences with others. And I know it's going to bless so very many people.
Yeah.
And
Thank you. This has been really
love
fun.
love to have you back and share some more about your journey.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thanks,
dear. Thanks so
Megan.
much. We'll see you
Okay.
soon. Be blessed. What a lovely time. And thank you, Nicole, for joining me and our guests this Wednesday for the Propel Deep Dive. And guys, I just encourage you to join us in the Propel community. The Propel community, and there's information right there to join. It's no charge, but you get a notification of the deep dives and then a link to it. So you can just join us, but it's also on YouTube. So go to the Megan DiMartino Propel page and subscribe. And it is there on YouTube, and it is a podcast as well. So you'll be able to listen to Nicole on Spotify and the other podcast platforms. But in the Propel community, as I shared earlier, you get a daily, you get a weekly newsletter and blog, and then also notifications on programs and trainings and the like that we do all during the year. So I am here to help you start, scale, and sustain the business and life of your dreams. So I look forward to seeing you next week for the next Propel Deep Dive. Be blessed.
Hello, peace. Hello, joy.